Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Senator Granholm, we're having a community climate and energy conference in Maine in June. Governor Mills has asked me to convey an invitation to you. We'd love to have you. June is a great time to visit Maine, so please see if that's a possibility.
Will do.
Thank you. This has been a fascinating discussion, and instead of mixing apples and oranges, we've been mixing gas and oil. Let's talk about them separately. As you kept trying to point out to Senator Marshall, oil is a global commodity. The price of oil is affected marginally by what's going on in the U.S., but it's affected by everything from Iran's sanctions to Russia's removal from the market to how oil is produced in Venezuela or Nigeria. It's a worldwide commodity. It's not something that we can set. The oil companies wake up in the morning and they look in the Wall Street Journal, and if it says it's $101 a barrel Brent crude, that's the price. The high price of gasoline is a reflection of the high price of oil, and the high price of oil is a reflection of the global market. I was in Germany with Senator Marshall. I did the calculation. We drove by in the buses, gas stations. They're paying $8.50 a gallon, not $5, not $4.50. At that time, it was almost exactly double the price in the United States. So to blame Governor Biden, or President Biden, or anybody else, you and I are governors, that's what's in my mind, President Biden or any other individual for the price of worldwide price of oil to, the Keystone Pipeline is just nonsense. So I think we really need to be clear about that. The high price of oil is a global price that's high everywhere in the world. The inflation of gasoline is high everywhere in the world, and in fact, in many places in the world is worse than here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, let's talk about natural gas. Electric bills, as Senator points out, are going up. Why? Because natural gas is going up. Why? In my view, talking about regulations on methane is, as my mother used to say, straining at gnats and swallowing camels. The camel here is exports of natural gas, and this is where I take issue with you, because you proudly said we have approved every applicant for LNG. Approved applications now constitute 57% of U.S. production. Natural gas is not a global commodity. It's a local commodity. The price has been very different here. It was about $3.50 here per million BTUs, and it was $13 or $14 in China. That's an advantage to the United States. We have now vastly increased the capacity for exports, supply and demand. We have dramatically increased the worldwide demand for our natural gas. We are now the largest LNG exporters. I sat in this committee 5 years ago with a representative of the natural gas industry. He said we will never go above 9% of our production, so it won't affect domestic prices. Well, we're now at about 15%. We're headed for over 50%. That's what happened in Australia. Natural gas prices domestically in Australia almost tripled, and it's already happening here. So my colleagues argue about we got to export more, and I understand helping the Europeans and dealing with Russia. The problem is we're building 35-year assets in terms of LNG. We're going to be committed to 50% of LNG. LNG, gas is going to become a global commodity, and our advantage vis-a-vis China is going to be eliminated. 13% of our LNG now goes to China. We're exporting our advantage in price. I hope that you will take a closer look at these applications because the standard is supposed to be the public interest. I believe domestic natural gas prices are part of the public interest. Can you give me some thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks for raising it. And it's, your point about the supply of natural gas and whether it is increasing to accommodate the increased volumes of production or whether it is a zero sum is an important point. I know that a couple of years ago, I think in 2018, our fossil energy office, then fossil energy office, did a study to determine whether, in fact, increases of exports caused prices to go up in the United States. At that point, it said no, basically. The Energy Information Agency, because of the increases that we're seeing, is looking at this again, and they will have a report out, hopefully by the end of this year. Let me just say,
I hope before you make more approvals of these long-term commitments, that you will have that data in hand, because it's
sure.
hard for me to believe that 57, from zero to, it was 0 6 years ago, to 57% of daily production isn't going to affect domestic prices.
Yeah, and I will just say on the 4 permits that we just granted, that was those were permits requested to take existing volumes that would have been sent to non-free trade agreements, to free trade agreement countries, and allow them to be diverted to Europe. So it wasn't an increase in volume as much as it was a permission to allow non-free trade agreement countries to be able to get it.
And I want to support the Europeans, and I think
Yeah.
getting them off Russian oil and gas is an absolutely important geopolitical decision on our part. But I also want people to realize that there's a price to be paid, and that we're going to be paying that price in terms of electricity, because largely in many areas in New England comes from natural gas. Our electricity bills have skyrocketed. Why? Because natural gas prices have skyrocketed. Why? In part because of a lack of investment in production, but I believe in part because of a substantial increase in exports. And so, let's not point fingers and say it's any individual's fault. This is a worldwide problem, but part of the fault, I believe, is that we have to really think hard about this policy of wholesale exports of natural gas unless domestic production significantly increases. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, with all due respect, if we could get a good pipeline up to you all northeast, we give you a lot of West
I
Virginia
totally
gas.
agree. I totally agree, and that's one of the major issues is pipeline capacity. That's why the Marcellus and the
Marcellus
shale investment is going
Shale
down,
and
because you
Utica.
can't get the gas out.
Marcellus and Utica would take care of the northeast more than enough.
When I was governor of Maine, we permitted a greenfield pipeline project from Nova Scotia to Boston through the state. I helped work with the companies to do that.
We can build you one and also be able to be coated to where it can carry hydrogen too as we transition in, and be able to give you both.